Bandidos, what up? Today we're cutting straight to the chase. Let's talk about the upcoming The Division 2 DLC set in Brooklyn. And more importantly, let's talk about price. So if you're wondering what this expansion might cost and whether it'll be worth your hard-earned cash, you're in the right place. No dev fanboy BS, just stay straight up, look at what we can expect based on Ubisoft's track record. Let's do this.
Wait, did we just become best friends? So nice to meet you, I think you're cool.
Piece of shit wristwatch.
Let's rewind for a second. Back in 2020, The Division 2 released the Warlords of New York expansion. It was a massive update for the game, bringing a whole new campaign, a fresh setting, and plenty of challenges. For most players, the main campaign took around 8 to 10 hours to complete, making it a pretty solid chunk of content for a paid expansion. Now, fast forward to 2025. The next big DLC is on the horizon, and this time we're heading over the bridge to Brooklyn. While Ubisoft hasn't dropped the full details yet, the hype is real. This is what everybody's talking about. What kind of story will it bring? How big is the map? And of course, how much is it going to cost? Well, here's the deal. Ubisoft is keeping the Brooklyn DLC pretty tight-lipped for now. No official details about the story, missions, or even the size of the expansion. However, they've hinted that the DLC will be heavily story-focused. But what exactly does that mean? A heavy story focus could mean a lot of things for The Division 2. For starters, we might see a narrative-driven campaign that digs deeper into the lore of the world, maybe exploring the aftermath of the events in Warlords of New York when we thought Keener was dead. Like, what was he doing this whole time? We got some clues here in recent seasons, but there's a big gap where we didn't know what he was up to. But one thing I hope to see is an introduction of new factions and characters. I am a little bit tired of fighting the same dude over and over again. It's like they ran out of ideas, so they revived the dead. Anyways, a heavy story focus could also mean a more cinematic experience with detailed cutscenes, branching missions, or even player choices that affect the outcome. On the flip side, story focus doesn't always guarantee a ton of gameplay. It's possible we'll get a shorter but more tightly written campaign, with Ubisoft doubling down on narrative quality over quantity, but a richer, more immersive experience overall. But how would you feel about that? I mean, we're always asking for more replayable endgame content. If we get something like this, a heavy dose of lore with not as much replayable content, is that a big L? And let's not forget, this is Ubisoft we're talking about. They've been known to mix things up with live service elements, so it's possible the story will unfold over time with new missions or chapters added post-launch as part of a seasonal roadmap. So I just broke down timing of this. So one of the questions we want to know is, well, when exactly is it going to launch? The end of Season 2 is just around the corner, which means we're supposed to be heading into this DLC, and that would put us around early March. Now, I go into a lot more detail on this, on whether that's a good idea or a bad one, and how other games like Assassin's Creed will impact the Division 2's DLC launch in Brooklyn. So I invite you to check that video out when you get a second. But for what we're talking about right now, the big question is, will the story deliver enough content to justify the price tag? That's what we're waiting to see. If heavy story focus translates to 10 plus hours of meaningful gameplay, players will likely be happy to pay for it. But if it ends up being more of a glorified side campaign, well, that's when we start asking, was it worth it? One of the big questions on everybody's mind is whether the Brooklyn DLC will be free or paid. While Ubisoft hasn't confirmed anything yet, history and a look at their current financial situation gives us some clues. First off, let's consider the precedent. So The Division 2's last major expansion, Warlords of New York, was not free. It launched in 2020, offering a sizable campaign, a new map, and other features. Ubisoft tends to reserve large, content-rich expansions like this for paid DLC. Smaller updates like seasonal content or minor tweaks are usually free, but something as big as a new campaign, that's rarely given away. Now, let's factor in Ubisoft's current financial state, which isn't good. In the first half of the 2024-25 fiscal year, the company reported a 19.6% decrease in sales compared to the same period the previous year. Additionally, Ubisoft is near bankruptcy, with analysts saying it's imminent, and a buyout is near and talks are going on as we speak. So these financial challenges have led to strategic shifts, including the postponement of major titles like Assassin's Creed Shadows and a re-evaluation of their release schedules. Given this context, which we cannot ignore, it's going to impact The Division 2. Ubisoft may opt to monetize the Brooklyn DLC to bolster revenue. That being said, there's a chance chance Ubisoft could offer a hybrid model. For example, they might make the base content of the DLC free for all players, but gate additional missions, features, or gear behind a paid premium version. This approach would allow them to cater to both free-to-play players and those willing to spend on extra content. It's not unheard of in live service games, and it could work here too. But I gotta say, at the end of the day, odds are they're leaning towards a paid DLC. A big expansion like this, particularly one marketed as story heavy, is the kind of premium content that Ubisoft would likely charge for to recoup development costs and boost revenue. Until Ubisoft spills the beans, it's all speculation, but based on past releases, we can make some educated guesses. So let's talk about actual pricing. How much is this gonna break the bank? When Warlords of New York launched in 2020, it was priced at $29.99. Pretty standard for a DLC of that scope, right? But here's something interesting. Let's factor in inflation. If you adjust for inflation, prices tend to increase by about 5 to 7% each year. That means in today's dollars, the Warlords of New York expansion would cost somewhere between $35 and $37. Not a massive jump, but enough to notice if you're on a budget. So if Ubisoft sticks to the same pricing model, we can probably expect the Brooklyn DLC price range of $30 to $40. The final price tag will likely depend on how much content they're offering. Is it another 8 to 10 hour campaign? Will it include new modes or endgame activities? And that's what we're waiting to find out. Here's a question that's interesting. How much would you be willing to pay for the DLC? And I asked that question to the community. Let's take a look at what they said. So how much would you pay for the Division 2 Brooklyn DLC? So those are the results. Now let's talk about what the players are saying here, because honestly, the numbers are telling. According to the survey, 72% of the Division 2 community thinks this DLC should either be free or cost less than $20. That's a pretty big chunk of the player base, right? So if Ubisoft decides to price the Brooklyn DLC at $30 or even $40, they're already swimming upstream. Here's where it gets tricky. If people feel the price doesn't match the value, you're gonna see a lot of players sitting on the sidelines, waiting to see how it all shakes out. And you know what happens then? It slows down the momentum. In multiplayer games like The Division 2, early adopters are everything. They're the ones who generate buzz, share screenshots, stream the content, and build hype for others to join. But if most of your community is hesitant, that hype train, well, it's leaving the station with barely anyone on board. Worse, if the launch has issues like bugs, glitches, or unfulfilled promises, it'll confirm those doubts for the people waiting and push them even further away. Ubisoft's got to realize that pricing this DLC too high while also fighting against their reputation for buggy launches could really hurt their bottom line, even more than it's already hurting. If they want players to feel good about paying more than $20, they need to absolutely wow us. Think flawless gameplay, tons of new content, and strong post-launch support. Otherwise, this DLC risks being more of a ghost town than a bustling Brooklyn adventure. But here's the kicker. Ubisoft doesn't exactly have a great track record with communication either. They're not the best at setting expectations, which leaves players wondering, will this DLC be worth it, or am I just paying for frustration? Let's see what they're saying in the comments. So quite a few people agree that they need to fix the bugs in the game. DJ here says, I have zero problem with paying for story content and expansions. I'll gladly pay for more game. What is criminal is how they remove the free apparel event, but have like 7 packs of insanely priced bundles in the game right now. But Randy says, let's see the content first, and a few other people agreed with that. How many people are gonna be just like Randy, standing on the sidelines to see how things pan out? Blackbeard says, the company has to earn income, and I personally do not think the development team gives a lot of a crap about this game and holds the community in complete contempt. Some good points are brought up. So how much would I pay for the DLC? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's break it down, because this question is about more than just the price tag. It's about value, support, and trust. Here's where I stand. I don't spend money to access more content. I spend to support the developers behind the game. When I feel like my investment is going towards passionate creators who genuinely care about delivering a great experience, I'm all in. That doesn't just mean pumping out DLC with more missions or gear. It means taking care of the community, communicating openly, and making smart, data-driven choices to improve the game. Unfortunately, Ubisoft hasn't exactly hit the mark on all those fronts recently, and I have been on a spending freeze with them for about 2 to 3 seasons now. Sure, they've delivered some great content in The Division 2 over the years, but let's be honest, it's been a rocky road. Communication has been consistently poor, bugs have lingered far too long for a live service game, and community management hasn't ever inspired confidence. And let's not forget, launching any major update or expansion bug-free should be the bare minimum, not a high bar. And they can't seem to hit that. With that context, here's what I'd like to see: a hybrid pricing model. A setup where the basic version of the Brooklyn DLC is free or very affordable, say $20 or less, while offering premium content or features as an optional add-on. That would make the expansion accessible to more players while allowing the diehard fans to spend extra if they want to unlock more features. That said, I'm pretty sure Ubisoft will go with a standard pricing model. I'm guessing the cost will land closer to $40. If that happens, the question becomes, is it worth it? For me, well, the answer is going to be yes. Not because I think they've earned it. I'll pay because I love this game and this community. I'm ride or die for the Division 2 homies. And despite the game's ups and downs, I want to see this game and its world thrive. I want to see the community stick together and grow till the end. But here's the thing, Ubisoft can and should do better. If they want to justify that $40 price tag, they need to show players they're worth the investment. That means more transparency, better community engagement, and ensuring the game feels polished and rewarding, not just at launch, but long term. So yeah, I'll buy the Brooklyn DLC, but let's be clear, I'm not just paying for the content, I'm paying to support the community and holding onto the hope that Ubisoft steps up and shows they care about us as much as we care about their game. But don't worry, I'll be keeping it real. If someone asks me whether the Division 2 or the Brooklyn DLC is worth it, they're getting the unfiltered truth. Here it is. The Division 2 is an incredible game, but the devs, they have dropped the ball when it comes to managing it and supporting the community. They go radio silent for months at a time, and the bugs, don't even get me started. Some of them stick around so long, it's almost funny. Almost. That said, if you can deal with those frustrations and find your group to play with, The Division 2 can still be an amazing experience. The gameplay, the world building, the moments you share with friends, it's all there. It's just a shame that the devs haven't lived up to the standard the game itself sets. But for those of us who are ride or die, we know what we're here for, and the Brooklyn DLC is just another chapter in that journey. Now, one thing's for sure, the community has high hopes for this DLC. Brooklyn offers tons of potential as a setting, and if Ubisoft delivers the same level of quality as Warlords of New York, we're in for a treat. All right, that's a wrap up for today. What's your prediction for the Brooklyn DLC price? Let's talk it out in the comments. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm Tuxedo Bandido, and if you found this video helpful, be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on the good stuff I have coming for you. And if you like content like this, be sure to check out the video I have recommended for you right here. If you have anything you would like me to cover, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And thank you to all the channel members and donors who make things possible. Tux Nation wouldn't be the same without you.
When you buy a game from Ubisoft, enter the creator code Tuxedo Bandido to support the channel. Easy peasy.
Wait, did we just become best friends?